A single dad gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white with tension as rain hammered against the cracked windshield. Blood dripped from his shoulder onto the seat, but he didn't care. In the back seat, wrapped in his jacket, was a little girl who wasn't his, but tonight, she became everything. For bullets had torn through his body, but he had kept his promise: stay behind me. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The day started like any other Thursday in my simple life. I woke up at 5:30 a.m., made breakfast for my 7-year-old son Tommy, packed his lunchbox with a sandwich and apple juice, and dropped him at school before heading to my construction job downtown. My name is David Chen, 32 years old, and I've been raising Tommy alone since his mother left us 3 years ago. Life was hard, money was tight, but we had each other, and that was enough. I never imagined that by nightfall, I would be fighting for my life and the life of a stranger's child. It was 6:45 p.m. when everything changed. I had just picked up Tommy from after-school care and we stopped at the small grocery store on 5th Avenue to buy milk and bread. Tommy was excited, talking about his art project at school, holding my hand as we walked through the parking lot. That's when I heard it, a child's scream that cut through the evening air like a knife. "Daddy! Daddy, help me!" I turned and saw a little girl, maybe 8 years old, with dark curly hair and a school uniform. She was running toward the parking lot, terror written across her face. Behind her, 3 men in black jackets were chasing her, moving fast, their faces hard and cruel. My heart stopped. Every instinct told me to grab Tommy and run, to protect my own son first. But when I looked into that little girl's eyes, I saw the same fear I had seen in Tommy's eyes when his mother walked out on us. I saw a child who needed someone, anyone, to stand between her and the darkness. "Tommy, get in the car now," I said firmly, pressing my keys into his small hands. "Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone but me." "But Dad." "Now, son." Tommy ran to our old Honda, and I heard the locks click. Then I turned and ran toward the little girl. "Stay behind me," I shouted as she reached me. She crashed into my legs, sobbing, clutching my jeans with desperate hands. I stood between her and the 3 men who had stopped a few feet away. The leader, a tall man with a scar across his cheek, smiled coldly. "Step aside, worker man. This doesn't concern you." "She's a child," I said, my voice steady despite the fear racing through my veins. "Whatever business you have, it's not with her." "You don't know who she is," the scarred man said. "That little girl is Commander Harrison's daughter. Her daddy made some enemies. Now those enemies want what's theirs, revenge. Move aside, or you'll die with her." Commander Harrison. I had heard that name on the news. He was the intelligence commander who had just led a major operation against the Valdez crime family, putting away their leader and dismantling their drug network. These men weren't random criminals, they were professional killers seeking revenge. My mind raced. I thought of Tommy locked in the car, watching. I thought of going home to him tonight, tucking him into bed, reading him his favorite story. I thought of all the ordinary, beautiful moments we still had ahead of us. But I also thought about what kind of man I wanted my son to see. What kind of father I wanted to be. "I'm not moving," I said quietly. The scarred man's smile disappeared. "Your funeral." He pulled a gun from his jacket. So did the other 2 men. Time seemed to slow down. I could hear the little girl whimpering behind me, feel her small hands gripping my shirt. I could see Tommy's face pressed against the car window, his eyes wide with fear. "Please," the girl whispered. "Please don't let them take me." I spread my arms wider, making myself a bigger shield. "You want her? You go through me first." The scarred man raised his gun, aiming at my chest. Brave and stupid. My favorite combination. "Run when I move," I whispered to the girl. "Run to that car where my son is. He'll keep you safe." But you. Just run. The gunshot exploded through the evening air. White-hot pain erupted in my left shoulder as the bullet tore through muscle and bone. I stumbled but didn't fall. Behind me, I heard the girl scream. "Run!" I shouted, and she did. The second bullet caught me in the side as I turned to shield her escape. The pain was incredible, like being stabbed with burning metal. My legs almost gave out, but I locked my knees and stayed standing. The little girl was running toward my car. The scarred man aimed at her. I threw myself forward, crashing into him just as he fired. The bullet meant for her hit me instead, punching into my chest. We both went down in a tangle of limbs. "Get the girl," the scarred man shouted to his partners. But I held on to his jacket, using every ounce of strength I had left. Blood poured from my wounds, staining the pavement red. My vision blurred, but I could see the girl reaching my car. Tommy was opening the door for her, pulling her inside. "Let go." The scarred man smashed the gun against my head. Stars exploded across my vision. The other two men ran past us toward my car. No. No, no, no. I couldn't let them reach the children. I couldn't fail now. With a roar that came from somewhere deep inside me, I lurched to my feet and tackled the nearest man. We crashed onto the hood of a parked car. He swung at me, his fist connecting with my jaw, but I barely felt it. All I knew was that I had to keep them away from those kids. The fourth bullet hit me in the leg. I went down hard, my face hitting the concrete. Blood pooled beneath me, warm and sticky. I tried to get up, but my body wouldn't respond. The pain was distant now, replaced by a strange floating sensation. Through the haze, I heard sirens. Beautiful, blessed sirens. "Cops," one of the men shouted. "Leave him. We're out." Footsteps running away. Car doors slamming. An engine roaring to life. I lay there on the cold ground, staring up at the darkening sky. Rain started to fall, mixing with the blood on my face. Each breath was harder than the last, like trying to breathe through water. "Dad! Dad!" Tommy's voice. "My beautiful boy." I turned my head and saw him running toward me, tears streaming down his face. The little girl was with him, holding his hand. "I'm okay," I tried to say, but only a whisper came out. "You're safe. That's what matters." The girl knelt beside me, her small hand touching my cheek. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you for saving me." I wanted to tell her it was all right, that this was what grown-ups did, they protected children, even if it cost them everything. But the darkness was pulling at me, soft and insistent. "Stay with me, Dad." Tommy was crying, holding my hand. "Please stay with me." I squeezed his fingers as hard as I could. "Love you, buddy," I whispered. "So proud of you." The sirens were closer now. Red and blue lights painted the parking lot. People were running, shouting. Someone in a uniform knelt beside me, pressing something against my chest. "We need an ambulance now." Civilian down, multiple gunshot wounds. "The children?" I managed to ask. "They're safe. Both children are safe. You saved them. Just hold on, sir. Help is coming." I closed my eyes, letting the darkness take me. I woke up in a hospital room filled with white light. Every inch of my body hurt, a deep, throbbing pain that told me I was still alive. Machines beeped steadily beside me. And 4 drip fed into my arm. "Dad!" Tommy was sitting in a chair beside my bed, his face breaking into a huge smile. He jumped up and gently hugged me, careful of the bandages and wires. "Easy, buddy," I croaked, my voice rough. "I'm kind of fragile right now." "The doctor said you almost died," Tommy said, tears running down his cheeks. "She said you lost so much blood." But you made it, Dad. You made it. I stroked his hair, feeling the warmth of his small body against mine. Of course I made it. I couldn't leave you, could I? The door opened and a tall man in a military uniform walked in. He had steel-gray hair, serious eyes, and the bearing of someone who had spent decades making life-and-death decisions. Behind him was the little girl from the parking lot, cleaned up now and wearing fresh clothes. "Mr. Chen," the man said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm Commander James Harrison. This is my daughter, Emma." Emma stepped forward shyly. "Hi," she said softly. "I wanted to say thank you. For saving my life." I smiled at her. "You're very welcome, Emma. I'm glad you're safe." Commander Harrison pulled up a chair and sat down heavily, as if his legs could no longer support him. "I don't know how to begin," he said. "What you did, most men wouldn't have done that. Trained soldiers wouldn't have done that. You took 4 bullets for a child you didn't know." "She needed help," I said simply. "That's all that mattered." "Those men were from the Valdez family," the commander continued. "We've been hunting them for 3 years. I helped put their leader away for life, and they wanted revenge. They've been watching my family, waiting for an opportunity. Yesterday, they made their move." He paused, his jaw tight with anger and grief. "My security detail was supposed to pick up Emma from school, but there was a miscommunication. She was alone for 15 minutes. That's all they needed. If you hadn't been there." His voice broke. "If you hadn't been there, I would have lost my little girl." Emma climbed onto her father's lap, and he held her tightly. "The men who did this?" I asked. "All arrested," Commander Harrison said with grim satisfaction. "When the police arrived, 2 of them were still in the parking lot. Your actions bought enough time for backup to arrive. We got the 3rd man 2 hours later. They're going away for a very long time." "Good," I said, feeling a weight lift from my chest. "Mr. Chen, I need to tell you about your injuries," the commander said gently. "You were shot 4 times. 1 bullet shattered your shoulder. Another punctured your lung. The 3rd went through your abdomen, missing vital organs by inches. The 4th hit your femur. You coded twice in the ambulance. The doctors said it was a miracle you survived." I looked down at my bandaged body, at the machines keeping me alive, and felt oddly calm. "How long until I can go home?" "Several weeks, at least. You'll need extensive physical therapy. Full recovery could take 6 months to a year." 6 months. A year. I thought about my construction job, about paying rent, about Tommy's needs. My savings wouldn't last a month, let alone a year. We would lose our apartment. Tommy might have to go into foster care while I recovered. The commander must have seen the panic in my eyes because he held up his hand. "Mr. Chen, I'm not going to let you worry about money or housing. My family owes you a debt we can never fully repay, but we're going to try. Your medical bills are covered, every single one. When you're released, you and Tommy will move into the guest house on my property. It's fully furnished, 3 bedrooms, and it's yours for as long as you need it." "I can't accept." "Yes, you can," he said firmly. "Furthermore, I've established a fund in your name. It will cover Tommy's education through college, all living expenses during your recovery, and a substantial amount for when you're back on your feet. You'll never have to worry about money again." Tears burned my eyes. "That's too much." "It's not enough," Emma said softly. "You gave your life for me. You didn't know who I was, but you stood in front of those guns anyway." Commander Harrison stood, his hand on his daughter's shoulder. "You showed me what real courage looks like, Mr. Chen. Not the courage that comes from training or duty, but the courage that comes from the heart. The courage of a father who would do anything to protect a child, any child." Over the next few weeks, as I slowly healed, I learned more about the Harrisons. Commander James Harrison had spent 20 years in military intelligence, working in the shadows to keep the country safe. His wife, Patricia, had died from cancer 2 years earlier, leaving him to raise Emma alone. In many ways, we were both single fathers doing our best in difficult circumstances. Emma visited me every day, bringing drawings and stories from school. Tommy and Emma became fast friends, and I often woke from naps to find them sitting by my bed, quietly playing games or reading together. "You know what's funny?" Emma said one afternoon while coloring a picture. "I always wished I had a big brother. Now I kind of do." Tommy beamed with pride. "I always wanted a little sister." Commander Harrison started visiting in the evenings, and we talked about everything: fatherhood, loss, fear, and hope. He told me about the weight of his responsibilities, about the operations that kept him awake at night, about the constant fear that his work would put his daughter in danger. "That fear became reality," he said one night, staring out the hospital window. "My worst nightmare came true, and I wasn't there to protect her." "But you were. You've protected thousands of people," I said. "Your work stops criminals, saves lives. You can't be everywhere at once." "Neither can you," he replied, "but when it mattered most, you were exactly where you needed to be." The physical therapy was brutal. Learning to walk again, to use my shoulder, to breathe without pain, every day was a battle. But I fought because I had something to fight for. Tommy needed me. And in a strange way, Emma needed me too. She had nightmares about that day, and sometimes only I could calm her down. "You're safe now," I would tell her gently. "Those bad men are gone. They can't hurt you." "But they hurt you," she would say, tears in her eyes. "And I would do it again," I always answered. Every single time. The first time I tried to stand without help, I fell. My leg gave out and I crashed to the floor of the therapy room. The pain was so intense that I couldn't breathe for a moment. Tommy rushed to my side, his small hands trying to help me up. "It's okay, Dad," he said, his voice shaking. "You can do it. You're the bravest person I know." Those words gave me strength. I grabbed the parallel bars and pulled myself up, sweat pouring down my face. My therapist, a kind woman named Sarah, watched with encouraging eyes. "One step at a time, David," she said softly. "You don't have to rush." But I did have to rush. Tommy needed a father who could play catch with him, who could run when he needed help, who could stand tall and strong. So I pushed myself harder than the doctors recommended. Every morning at 5 a.m., I would drag myself out of bed and do the exercises, even when my body screamed in protest. Commander Harrison often joined me during these early morning sessions. He would sit quietly, drinking coffee, watching me struggle and fight. "You remind me of the soldiers I served with," he said one morning. "The ones who refused to quit no matter how hard things got. That kind of determination can't be taught. It comes from somewhere deep inside." "I just want to be whole again for my son," I replied, gritting my teeth as I lifted my damaged arm. "You're already whole," the commander said. "Your body might be healing, but your spirit never broke. Tommy sees that. Emma sees that. That's what matters most." There were dark days too. Days when the pain was so overwhelming that I wondered if I would ever feel normal again. Days when I looked at my scarred body in the mirror and barely recognized myself. Days when the medical bills piled up, even with the commander's help, and I felt like a burden. One particularly difficult evening, I sat alone in the guest house, staring at the prescription pain medication in my hand. It would be so easy to take more than prescribed, to escape into numbness. My phone rang, breaking the dangerous moment. It was Emma. "Uncle David," her small voice came through. "Can you come over? I had a bad dream and Daddy's working late. I need you." I looked at the pills in my hand, then at my son sleeping peacefully in the next room, then at the phone. Emma needed me. Tommy needed me. I couldn't let them down. I poured the extra pills down the sink and walked over to the main house. Emma met me at the door, her eyes red from crying. I sat with her, told her stories, and sang her the same songs I sang to Tommy. When she finally fell asleep, her hand was holding mine tightly. Commander Harrison came home an hour later and found us like that. He didn't say anything, just nodded with understanding and gratitude in his eyes. We both knew what addiction could do to people in pain. We both knew how close I had come to making a terrible choice. And we both knew that love had saved me once again. 3 months after the shooting, I was finally released from the hospital. True to his word, Commander Harrison had prepared the guest house on his property. It was beautiful, a small cottage with a full kitchen, comfortable furniture, and a backyard where Tommy and Emma could play. "This is too much," I said again, overwhelmed by the generosity. "David," the commander said, "we were on a first-name basis now. Let me tell you something. In my line of work, I've seen the worst of humanity. I've seen people who would burn down the world for power or money. But I've also seen the best. I've seen soldiers sacrifice themselves for strangers. I've seen ordinary people do extraordinary things. You're one of those people. Let me honor that." Living on the Harrison property changed our lives in ways I never expected. Tommy thrived, attending a better school, making new friends, playing in a safe neighborhood. Emma was like the daughter I never had, and Patricia, the commander's late wife, smiled down at all of us from the family photos that filled the main house. But the best change was in me. The physical scars healed slowly, but something inside me had transformed. I had lived my whole life feeling like I wasn't enough, not successful enough, not strong enough, not wealthy enough. My ex-wife had left because she said I would never amount to anything. But on that terrible, beautiful night in the parking lot, I had been exactly enough. I had been everything that little girl needed. 6 months after the shooting, I was sitting on the porch of the guest house, watching Tommy and Emma chase fireflies in the backyard. My shoulder ached, it always would, and I walked with a slight limp. But I was alive. The children were laughing, their joy echoing through the warm summer night. Commander Harrison joined me, handing me a cold drink. "How are you feeling?" "Grateful," I said simply. "Every single day, I'm grateful." "I have something for you," he said, pulling out an envelope. "Open it." Inside was a letter from the mayor's office and a medal, the Civilian Medal of Valor, the city's highest honor for bravery. "There's going to be a ceremony next month," the commander explained. "The whole city wants to honor what you did." I held the medal, feeling its weight. "I didn't do it for recognition." "I know. That's exactly why you deserve it." The ceremony was overwhelming. Hundreds of people attended, including the mayor, police officers, and families whose lives had been touched by my story. When I walked onto the stage, leaning on a cane, the entire audience stood and applauded. Tommy and Emma sat in the front row, both crying happy tears. In the audience, I noticed something that made my heart swell. There were other single parents there, fathers and mothers who had heard my story and found inspiration in it. After the ceremony, many of them approached me with tears in their eyes. "Thank you," said one single mother holding her daughter's hand. "My ex-husband said I was weak for raising our child alone. Your story showed my daughter that single parents can be heroes too." A young father with a baby strapped to his chest shook my hand firmly. "I lost my wife in childbirth 6 months ago. Some days I wanted to give up. But hearing what you did, how you kept fighting for your son even when you were broken, it gave me strength to keep going." These conversations reminded me that my story wasn't just about one night in a parking lot. It was about every single parent who wakes up exhausted, works multiple jobs, sacrifices their own dreams so their children can have better lives. We're all heroes in our own way, fighting battles nobody sees. An elderly police officer approached me, his uniform decorated with decades of service medals. "Son," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I've been a cop for 40 years. I've seen brave men and women do incredible things. But what you did, that was different. You had no training, no weapon, no backup. You just had love. That's the strongest force in the world. The mayor spoke about courage and sacrifice. The police chief talked about heroism in ordinary people. Commander Harrison gave a speech that brought the entire room to tears. David Chen showed us what it means to love beyond ourselves, he said, his voice carrying across the silent auditorium. He showed us that real strength isn't about how much you can lift or how fast you can run. It's about what you're willing to endure for someone else. He took 4 bullets for my daughter, a child he had never met, asking nothing in return. He is the finest man I have ever known. When it was my turn to speak, I looked out at the crowd and then down at Tommy's proud, shining face. I'm not a hero, I said quietly. I'm just a dad who did what any parent should do, protect a child in danger. We all have moments in our lives where we have to choose between what's easy and what's right. I chose what was right. I hope all of you would do the same. I paused, gathering my thoughts. That night changed my life in every way. I lost some things, my health, my independence for a while, my sense of security. But I gained so much more. I gained a deeper relationship with my son, who watched his father stand up for what mattered. I gained an extended family in the Harrisons. Most importantly, I gained the knowledge that when it truly mattered, I was brave enough, strong enough, and good enough. The applause was deafening. After the ceremony, people lined up to shake my hand and thank me. Mothers held their children up to see me. Men with tears in their eyes told me I had inspired them to be better fathers. Young people asked for photos, calling me their hero. But the moment that mattered most came at the end of the night. Emma and Tommy approached me together, holding a card they had made. We wanted to give you this, Emma said shyly. Inside, they had drawn a picture of the 4 of us, Emma, Tommy, Commander Harrison, and me, standing together as a family. Above the drawing, in Emma's careful handwriting, were the words, "Thank you for staying behind me." I pulled both children into a gentle hug, ignoring the pain in my healing shoulder. I will always stay behind you, I promised them. Both of you. Always. 1 year after the shooting, I stood in the backyard of the guest house, our home now, flipping burgers on the grill. My shoulder still ached when the weather changed, and I would always walk with a slight limp. But I was healthy, employed in a new job that Commander Harrison had helped me find, and happier than I had ever been. The scars on my body had become part of my story, badges of honor that I no longer tried to hide. Tommy had asked to touch them once, his small fingers tracing the puckered skin on my shoulder. "Does it hurt, Dad?" he had asked quietly. "Sometimes," I admitted. "But every time it hurts, I remember why I have these scars. I remember that little girl who needed help. I remember being brave enough to stand up. The pain reminds me that I did something good." Tommy had hugged me then, careful not to press too hard. "I'm glad you're my dad," he whispered. That memory played in my mind as I watched the children now, running through the sprinklers, their laughter filling the summer air. Commander Harrison had brought steaks to add to the grill, and his sister Karen had driven in from 2 states away to join our little celebration. "You know what today is?" the commander asked, settling into his lawn chair. "Saturday?" I joked. "It's been exactly 1 year since you saved my daughter's life. 1 year since you changed all of our lives forever." I flipped a burger, watching the smoke rise into the clear blue sky. "Feels like a lifetime ago. Feels like yesterday." "I got a call this week," the commander continued. "From the district attorney. All 3 men received life sentences without parole. They'll never hurt another child again." Relief washed over me. "Good. That's really good." "There's something else," he said, pulling out a folded paper from his pocket. "The city wants to name a park after you. Chen Family Park. They're building it near the elementary school where Emma and Tommy go." It'll have a memorial plaque telling your story. I felt tears sting my eyes. A park? You inspired an entire city, David. People want to remember what you did. They want their children to know that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Tommy and Emma ran past, laughing, chasing each other with water balloons. Commander Harrison sat in a lawn chair, looking more relaxed than I had ever seen him. You know, he said, when I almost lost Emma, I realized something. I had spent so much time protecting strangers that I had failed to protect what mattered most. You taught me that the people right in front of us, the ones we love, they're the most important mission we'll ever have. You were protecting everyone's children, I said. Including mine. And you protected mine when I couldn't. We sat in comfortable silence, watching our children play. The scars on my body would always remind me of that terrible night, but they also reminded me of something beautiful, the moment I became more than I thought I could be. Sometimes Emma still had nightmares. On those nights, she would come to our cottage, and I would sit with her until she fell back asleep, my hand gently stroking her hair. You're safe, I would whisper. I promise you're safe. And she was. They both were. People often ask me if I regret what happened, if I wish I had just walked away with Tommy that night. The answer is always the same, no. Not for a single second. Because in that moment, I wasn't just Tommy's father, I was every child's protector. I was the man who stood between innocence and evil. I was the shield that refused to break. I took 4 bullets that night. Each scar tells a story of pain, but also of purpose. Each wound represents a choice I made, to be brave when it was easier to run, to sacrifice when it was safer to hide, to love when it would have been simpler to turn away. My ex-wife once told me I would never amount to anything. She was wrong. I amounted to exactly what I needed to be, a father who showed his son what real courage looks like, and a man who gave a stranger's daughter a chance to grow up, to laugh, to dream. That's worth everything. On quiet evenings, when the children are asleep and the house is peaceful, I sometimes touch the scars on my chest and shoulder. They ache, reminding me of mortality and vulnerability. But they also remind me of strength I didn't know I possessed. Commander Harrison once told me that in his decades of military service, he had seen countless acts of bravery. But yours, he said, yours was different. Because you weren't trained for that moment. You didn't have backup or weapons or protective gear. You just had a father's heart and a human being's instinct to protect the innocent. That's the purest form of courage I've ever witnessed. I don't know if that's true. I only know that when I close my eyes, I can still hear Emma's terrified scream, still feel her small hands clutching my shirt, still hear myself shouting those 3 words that changed everything. Stay behind me. Those words saved her life. Those words gave Tommy a lesson in heroism he'll carry forever. Those words gave me a purpose I didn't know I was searching for. We're a family now, unconventional, stitched together by trauma and healed by love. Tommy calls Commander Harrison Uncle James. Emma calls me Uncle David. We have dinners together, celebrate birthdays, take vacations, and hold each other up through the hard days. Sometimes late at night, when I can't sleep because of the pain in my shoulder, I walk outside and look up at the stars. I think about the path my life has taken, about the choices that led me to that parking lot on that fateful evening. I think about how easy it would have been to turn away, to prioritize only my own child's safety, to let someone else be the hero. But I didn't turn away. I stepped forward. I stood tall. I took the bullets so a little girl could live. And I would do it again. Every single time. Because that's what love looks like, standing between danger and the defenseless, absorbing the pain so they don't have to, refusing to move even when moving would save you. Stay behind me, I had said. And she did. And she lived. And that makes every scar, every moment of pain, every difficult night worth it. My name is David Chen. I'm a single father, a construction worker, a survivor. I'm not rich or famous or powerful. But on one rain-soaked evening, I was exactly what one little girl needed, a shield, a protector, a man willing to die so she could live. They call me a hero now. I don't feel like one. I feel like a father who did what fathers do, put their children first, even when that child isn't their own. Because in that moment, Emma was mine. She was every father's daughter, every child who ever needed someone to stand between them and the darkness. And I stood. I took 4 bullets. And I'd take 4 more if I had to. Because that's what heroes do, they stay behind you, no matter the cost. Last week, Emma graduated from elementary school. She stood on stage to give a speech, and she talked about courage. Courage isn't about being fearless, she said, her voice clear and strong. Courage is being terrified but doing the right thing anyway. I know this because someone showed me. She looked directly at me in the audience. Uncle David taught me that real heroes don't wear capes. They wear ordinary clothes and live ordinary lives. But when someone needs help, they step forward. They say, "Stay behind me," and they mean it with their whole heart. The audience applauded, but I barely heard it. All I could see was that scared little girl from the parking lot, now standing tall and confident, alive and thriving because of a choice I made. Tommy leaned against my shoulder, pride shining in his eyes. "That's my dad," he whispered to the person next to him. "That's my hero." Commander Harrison reached over and squeezed my shoulder, the one that had healed, scarred but strong. No words were needed. We understood each other completely. That night, as I tucked Tommy into bed, he asked me a question. "Dad, if you could go back to that day, knowing you'd get shot and hurt so bad, would you still do it?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes, buddy. Every single time." "Why?" I smiled and kissed his forehead. "Because some things are worth bleeding for. Love is worth it. Protecting innocent people is worth it. Being the kind of person you can be proud of, that's worth everything." He fell asleep with a smile on his face, safe and loved. And I sat there in the darkness, listening to my son breathe, feeling the ache in my shoulder, remembering the weight of those 3 words that changed everything. "Stay behind me."